Chapter 11. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. I'm your guardian. Wan Mengmeng finally understood. No wonder she had mistaken this man before her for Li Junting, the man she had slept with last night. After all, Li Junyu was Li Junting's older brother. They were brothers with similar voices and features. It was normal for her to mistake them for each other. This man was not Li Junting, so that meant she had not been exposed for sleeping with Li Junting in the hotel last night yet. That thought made Wan Mengmeng heave a secret sigh of relief. Once she let go of her anxiety, she turned back to her usual self, a fearless rich heiress. Pulling the hem of her gown up, she casually took a seat opposite Li Junyu. The legendary tyrant was undoubtedly terrifying. However, Wan Mengmeng did not need his pity, and she did not owe him anything either. That was why, although his aura was scarily cold, Wan Mengmeng was still brash enough to disregard that completely. The only person she ever feared was her older sister. As for everyone else, She sat down on her own and crossed her legs, putting her head on one hand and giving the cold-faced man opposite her a sweet smile. Young Master Li, thanks for saving me. That good-looking guy with the glasses outside said you wanted to meet me, right? Alright, what is it? She even winked at the man sitting opposite her, her cheek in her hand as she spoke. She could not help it. The legendary heir to the Li family was simply too good-looking, so much so that gods and humans alike would envy him. Besides, one of Wan Mengmeng's characteristics was that she liked to admire pretty things. In other words, she was a sucker for good looks. Whenever she played a game, she would always choose the most handsome and beautiful characters. She liked to admire good-looking guys. If she were not afraid of scaring him off, she would have catcalled Li Junyu by now. Li Junyu listened to her spiel, his expression cold. The more he heard, the darker his expression grew. When Wan Mengmeng was standing at the door, she had been a well-mannered and well-behaved young lady. Now, she sat with her legs propped up like some lady gangster. He had witnessed the entire transformation himself. The shadows in his eyes only grew darker. Don't cross your legs like that. Sit properly, he said in a cold voice, his tone terrifyingly chilly. Wan Mengmeng narrowed her pretty almond eyes, her gaze fixed on his long slender legs, crossed on top of each other. He was sitting with his legs crossed, so what right did he have to tell her not to? Also, this first young Master Li was being a tad too controlling. He may have saved her, but that did not give him the right to lord over her, right? Young Master Li, I know you saved me, but how I sit is my business and none of yours now, is it? Although Wan Mengmeng was tempted by his beauty, she was not afraid of him as long as there was nothing for her to feel guilty about. Her sparkling bright almond eyes stared directly at Li Junyu. Even when she met that man's bottomless cold eyes, she was not the least bit scared. Li Junyu pulled back his gaze slightly. The moment he met the girl's sparkling almond eyes, something really important seemed to flit past his mind. When he tried to think about it, though, the idea slipped right through his fingers. Li Junyu purposely chose to ignore that uncharacteristically strange feeling. He must find it odd because rarely anyone ever confronted him directly like this. That must be it. The man's pitch-black eyes turned even colder. The girl was harder to condition than he expected. Li Junyu never liked to waste time, so this made him frown. Starting from today, I'll be your guardian. That means I'm in charge of everything you say and do. Li Junyu's voice was extremely cold, and his gaze on Wan Mengmeng was also bordering on emotionless. He looked at Wan Mengmeng as though she was an official task he had to deal with rigidly. There was no warmth at all in his eyes. Her guardian. He controlled her. Wan Mengmeng's tender cherry lips instantly parted until her mouth was the size of an egg. You. No way. Wan Mengmeng immediately jumped out of the couch. There's no way you're my guardian. My dad's my guardian. First young Master Li, that joke isn't funny, you know. I don't even know you, and there's nothing between us. This is our first time meeting each other. Ruan Mengmeng wondered if this world was even real. Her stepmother could not conceive over all these years, but then she suddenly became pregnant. Her father always pampered her, but now that he had a son, he suddenly stopped caring for her. She had always thought her sister was invincible and omnipotent, but then she suddenly passed away. However, none of that held a candle up to this moment. That was how deeply Li Junyu's news shocked her. She was definitely a daughter of the Ruan family's bloodline. Her father was Ruan Zhaotian and her mother was Qin Qingji, so how could she possibly be related to the Li family in any way? Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Starting today, I'm in charge of you. Ruan Mengmeng's reaction was completely within Li Junyu's expectations. He raised his brow, and a chilly gleam flashed through his cold stern eyes. He made no attempt to hide his impatience with this. Those are my father's orders. Starting today, I'm in charge of your food, shelter, education, manners, your physical and even your mental health. All of it. As he said that, Li Junyu stood up and strode up to Ruan Mengmeng with his long legs. Bending forward, he used his own hands to pull her right leg down from her left knee. The man's fingers rested on her knee. They were slender and long, with well-defined knuckles. Since he was bending down and leaning really close to her, Ruan Mengmeng was almost completely and utterly enveloped by Li Junyu's lazy yet chilly aura. Li Junyu put her legs together and forced her to sit politely, like a well-mannered lady. Never cross your legs. This is your last warning. He murmured that threat into her ear with his exceedingly deep voice before he straightened up again. The entire time, Ruan Mengmeng was lost in a daze. Her brain had not recovered yet. It was still registering Li Junyu's earlier declaration. Only now did she finally raise her head bewilderedly, looking at him in sheer disbelief. Did you just say you were gonna educate me? What right do you? My last name is Ruan, and yours is Li. It took her a little longer than usual, but Ruan Mengmeng finally came back to her senses. Li Junyu lowered his gaze, staring at her as he said with his extremely cold voice, "It's simple. It's because my father is Li Yaoyang, and his second wife's name is Qin Qingji." Qin Qingji. Chen. Qing. Ji. Li Junyu's words were like a bolt of lightning crashing onto Ruan Mengmeng. It stunned her and made her dizzy, its effects lasting for a good while. Qin Qingji. Qin Qingji. Qin Qingji was her mother's name. 11 years ago, she could not stand her father's infidelity, his mistress pressure, as well as her mother-in-law's and sister-in-law's bullying. So she drowned herself in the ocean. That was her mother, who should have died a long time ago. No, that can't be. Ruan Mengmeng shook her head. Her eyes had always sparkled with rainbow colors, but now they had been instantly drowned in tears. My mom died a long time ago, she left us 11 years ago. There's no way she's still alive. If she was, how could she bear to abandon my sister and me? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Ruan Mengmeng had a pair of eyes that sparkled as though they could speak. When she smiled at someone, her sparkling almond eyes seemed to contain the stars, the sun, and the moon. Now, however, her clear crystal eyes were covered in a thin layer of mist. When he saw the girl reacting like this, Li Junyu could not help but frown. A peculiar emotion flitted past his previously composed black eyes. For a second there, he had actually, inexplicably, felt something akin to pity. Ha, what a joke. She was just a useless heiress who had been completely spoiled by her upbringing. She did not warrant a careful education at his hands. The only one who cared about such a thing was that old man back home who was so dedicated to Qin Qingji. When he remembered his father's orders, the last trace of pity in Li Junyu's bottomless eyes was obscured by an impenetrable haze. I don't care if you believe it or not. That has nothing to do with me. Either way, I'm your guardian, starting from now. No, you're not. Ruan Mengmeng did not back down at all, glaring at him with her teary almond eyes. I'm not a minor anymore. I'm 19 this year, so you can't boss me around. Unfortunately, you're still a student. Apparently, you've been in your third year of high school for 2 years now. With the way you're going, how long will it take for you to graduate on your own? Li Junyu did not hide his contempt at all. There was absolutely no warmth in his eyes when he looked at Ruan Mengmeng. He had long since investigated her life. The second miss of the Ruan family had started school in advance at merely 5 years old. Now that she was in the third year of high school, though, she had somehow still managed to take 2 years longer than everyone else. That was why she was 19 now and still had yet to graduate. Even if that's true, that's still my business. I don't need your interference. I have my dad, and I have a family. I don't need you to be my guardian. Ruan Mengmeng turned her head away stubbornly, purposely telling herself not to look at his cold gaze of contempt. No one else knew her life better than she did. Ruan Mengmeng did not need to explain anything to anyone else. In that case, that surely means you don't need to meet your mother either, right? Alright, you can go then. I won't force you. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. First time being carried like a princess, Ruan Mengmeng's breath caught in her throat. She lowered her head to hide the disappointment in her eyes. No, I don't need to see her. I don't want to. If her mother had not died, why did she not return to retrieve her sister and herself? Did her mother not know that her departure meant Qin Fang would immediately join the family? All these years, she had relied solely on her older sister, Ruan Shishir. Her sister's strength was incomparable. If it were not for that, the sisters would have long since been eaten whole by that woman. While the two of them were helpless and alone, their mother had been living the high life in the Li family. It would be a lie to say that she did not miss her mother. However, Ruan Mengmeng's heart was filled with a sense of rejection right now. It felt as though she would be doing Ruan Shishir dirty if she went to see their mother now. If she made up with her mother now, what would all of her sisters' suffering over the past 11 years come to? Ruan Mengmeng denied the desire in her heart and stood up, walking toward the door. Just as she had taken one step forward, though. Ah, the girl's soft cry rang out in the study. Wah! What are you doing? Let me down. Ruan Mengmeng was shocked out of her senses. That ice-cold seemingly heartless man had actually hugged her from behind. I'm warning you, you'd better let me go now. Or else, she was so physically strong that she was sure she could scare him with a threat. If he was not Li Junyu, someone her Ruan family could not offend, she guaranteed she would forcefully break his arm. Unfortunately, her warning fell completely on deaf ears. He held Ruan Mengmeng's waist from behind and bent down slightly, lifting her up horizontally. Thought it was a Princess Carrie. F***ck, was he nuts? Even if he was inhumanly handsome, he should not flirt with her so boldly. Ruan Mengmeng said, no, don't. Let go, put me down. However, her little palm-sized face had silently turned red. She swore on heaven and earth that it was not because she was fantasizing about this glacier of a man. It was just that she was such a sucker for good looks. That handsome man was insanely beautiful, and his deep stern features were magnified before her very eyes. Mamma mia, oh my. They were so close to each other that her heart skipped wildly, and even her breath was out of whack. What are you trying to do? Ruan Mengmeng sounded angry, but her body remained obediently curled in his embrace. The tears that had been fluttering on her lashes earlier had now become a sparkling gleam in her eyes. Li Junyu lowered his cold eyes and looked at her flushed little face with an inquisitive gaze. Just as he expected, she was exactly like the investigation report said. She was just a careless, simple-minded, straightforward little girl. What a pain, he muttered those 3 words coldly, but his hoarse voice was extremely sexy. Ruan Mengmeng suspected that his voice was about to impregnate her ears. Before she could react, Li Junyu had already carried her away. Where are you taking me? Put me down, I can walk on my own. Second Miss Ruan was known for her aggression, but right now, she was basically a tame little pet. She never stopped whining, but her little head leaned on the man's broad chest obediently. Her little face was rosy red, and her pretty starry eyes sparkled with moisture. She did not like Li Junyu, and she was not interested in this man at all, but all her life, no man had ever carried her like a princess before. Her little face even took things one step further, rubbing against the man's firm chest. Li Junyu kept his expression cold as he purposely ignored the girl struggling in his embrace. He carried Ruan Mengmeng, who was dressed in a princess grown, down the corridor, past the tall arches, and through the magnificent grand hall. As all of the Li family's maids and servants stared in shock, he carried Ruan Mengmeng to the third floor of the mansion, stopping in front of a large tightly shut door covered with engravings. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mother-daughter reunion. Only then did Li Junyu finally put the girl down expressionlessly. Ruan Mengmeng had not even steadied her footing when the man's deep and mesmerizing voice hurried her from behind. Go inside. He was standing right behind her, both his hands pressed against the door. This way, he stealthily trapped the girl between his arms. Ruan Mengmeng was so embarrassed that she turned red to the roots of her ears. She was usually bold and brash, but in truth, aside from her childhood friend Mu Jingxing, she had never really interacted with guys before. If she kept dawdling here, she might start acting even weirder. With that in mind, she pushed the door open herself and walked in. Beyond the door was an extravagant European-style bedroom. The grand and heavy curtain drapes blocked all light out of the room. The crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling was not illuminated either. The only lighting in the room came from a pair of small wall lamps on either side of the bed. A middle-aged man with a straight back sat next to the bed, looking at the person lying in it. At the same time, there seemed to be a woman sleeping on the large and magnificent bed in the middle of the room. Ruan Mengmeng approached it, one step at a time, growing closer and closer. The closer she was, the better she could see. Beep. Beep. She suddenly heard the beeping from the medical machinery. That was when she finally saw how many tubes were sticking out of the woman's body. BDNVL.M. In her memories, her mother had a face as beautiful as an angel's. All her life, she had heard many people say she looked just like her mother. However, Ruan Mengmeng knew that she was not even half as beautiful as her mother was. Now, the woman lying ill on the bed was deathly pale and horribly weak, not a trace of rosiness to be found anywhere on her face. Even so, she was still quietly gorgeous. She was like a rose that was wilting after its full bloom. Although it was no longer as breathtaking as when it was in its prime, it was still beautiful in a broken sort of way. The woman on the bed was Qin Qingji. That was her mother, who should have died a long time ago. Mengmeng. Is it you, Mengmeng? The woman on the bed had been fast asleep. She had not stirred, even though the middle-aged man next to her whispered a constant stream of passionate words into her ear. When she heard the door open, however, when she heard Ruan Mengmeng's footsteps approaching, she actually opened her eyes for once. The disease had robbed her almond-shaped eyes of their initial shine, but the instant she saw Ruan Mengmeng, her eyes lit up with an intense gleam. Mengmeng. It's really you. You're finally willing to meet me. Oh, you've grown so much. The woman's pretty brows locked tightly together, pearl-like tears falling from her eyes in an instant. Ruan Mengmeng thought she could harden her heart, but the instant she saw those tears falling like a broken string of pearls, all of her defenses fell apart. Her heart instantly softened into putty. She lunged forth and hugged Qin Qingji, even remembering to carefully control her strength and avoid all the tubes stuck in Qin Qingji's body. Mom. Sob. Sob, Ruan Mengmeng cried like a helpless little child. Li Junyu stood at the door, coolly watching this warm and touching mother-daughter reunion. He remembered that stubborn little girl who had bitten her bottom lip in the study earlier, her tears pooling in her eyes but never truly falling. At that thought, his pitch-black eyes slowly grew darker. After a while, the mother and daughter finally stopped crying and calmed down. That was when the middle-aged man who had been standing by the bed and watching them with a warm gaze finally spoke. "Nice to meet you, Meng Meng. I'm Li Yaoyang, and you can call me Uncle Li from now on. Your mother didn't mean to abandon you back then. She tried to drown herself in the ocean, but we just happened to save her with our yacht. Your father hurt her very deeply back then, and he even made her depressed. It took her a long time to recover from that pain. After that, when she wanted to return to look for you too, she realized that your older sister was already very independent, and she cared for you perfectly well too. Since the two of you were living happily, she was worried that her sudden return would disrupt your peaceful lives. That was why she knew it was too much to want to meet you, even though she'd been so ill all these years." Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Starting today, she was Miss Li when she heard what Li Yaoyang had to say. Ruan Mengmeng's heart felt heavy. She knew that Ruan Zhaotian was a good father, but he was by no means a good husband. Her mother had really suffered when she lived in a family as tense as that, but Ruan Mengmeng was still surprised to hear her mother had depression. She could not help but raise her eyes to look at Li Yaoyang, this man who stood at the pinnacle of S country. He was the #1 tycoon of S country and the person who controlled the Lishan group. Regardless, his gaze upon her mother was full of love and devotion. He probably really did love her mother. Even when her mother was ill, he stayed by her side and took care of her. Ruan Mengmeng remembered how Qingji had to deal with a husband who never came home and an abusive mother-in-law back in the Ruan family. She figured that Li Yaoyang was the kind of man mom really wanted. "Meng, your mother has actually been sick for a while now. I should have sent her to M country for surgery a long time ago, but she's worried that she won't come out of the operating theater alive, so she kept refusing to go. I know that she can't let go of you and your sister. Your sister is overseas, and she can't come back. That's why I had Junyu bring you back first." When Ruan Mengmeng heard him say, "Your sister is overseas, and she can't come back," she blinked for a bit. Nevertheless, it was not long before she knew what he meant. This was Li Yaoyang's care and kindness. He could not bear to let her mother know that her sister had passed away, because it would surely break her heart. "Meng, you'll be staying in the Li family from now on, so take this place as your home. You don't have to think of me as your father if you don't want to, but I'll definitely love you as my daughter. Don't worry, no matter what happens, Uncle Li promised your mother to protect you forever." But, she wanted to tell him that she still had a home. She had her father, her grandfather, and her home. "Meng, promise me. Please stay," Qingji said weakly, holding her hand and staring at her so intently that she could barely bear to blink. "Yaoyang told me, that woman's having a son. I can't let you go back, I'm too worried about you. Your grandmother and the others definitely won't be impartial, and your sister's overseas, so I can't leave you in that family alone. I'll be leaving in a bit, and I don't know if I can make it back, so please, could you stay here, and stay by my side? Please." Qingji's tears threatened to spill over again. All of Ruan Mengmeng's words of refusal died in her throat. Ruan Mengmeng could not bear to see her sick mother burst into tears, so she had no choice but to nod and agree. After Qingji went to sleep, Li Yaoyang brought Ruan Mengmeng to the hall and officially introduced her to the Li family's 100 servants. "Remember, starting from today, Mengmeng will be our Li family's only young mistress. No one is allowed to treat her lightly. You must respect her as you do the other young masters. If I find out that anyone has disrespected her, I'll definitely punish them accordingly." Li Yaoyang did not hold back with his oppressive aura, making all of the servants shudder without even raising his voice. Once he was done warning everyone, he turned to Ruan Meng Meng with a warm and rather fawning smile. "Meng Meng, I didn't scare you, did I? Don't worry, your uncle is actually a very friendly person. I don't even have a temper." Ruan Meng Meng was sitting on the couch and eating her dessert, but when she heard that, she nearly dropped her bone china plate. Irk. This good-looking old man sure changed tacks quickly. It was almost too fast for her to process. The butler standing next to him was sweating buckets at the sight. The master did not sound so patient even when he spoke to their youngest master. There was no way he would be anywhere close as sweet to the three older ones. When he spoke to this Miss Meng Meng, however, he was so warm and loving. The middle-aged butler made a mental note to himself. After this, he must warn those servants again, ensuring that no one would ever disrespect Miss Meng Meng. "Meng Meng, I'll have someone bring you to your room so you can rest for now. Let's eat together during dinner time. I made sure to tell everyone in the family to come home for dinner tonight, too. I have 4 sons, and the one you met earlier was the oldest. You'll meet the second, third, and fourth sons later. I'm sure you young people will have plenty to talk about." The second, third, and fourth. Ruan Meng Meng repeated the handsome uncle's words in her mind. Suddenly, she froze. Wait, the second son. That meant she would soon meet the second young master, Li Junting. The man she stole some jeans from last night. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She hated his guts. In the extravagant yet extremely girly bedroom on the second floor of the mansion, Ruan Meng Meng was sprawled on the soft princess bed, hugging her pillow and rolling around as she drowned in regret. If she had not remembered to control her strength, she might already have torn this large bed, with its pink curtains and soft lace-down blankets, to pieces. She regretted it so much. How could she have gotten carried away and promised Mom she would stay? Ruan Meng Meng was filled to the brim with regret now, but she could not steel her heart to go back on her promise, so all she could do was vent on the bed alone. Just then, a cold and deep voice suddenly spoke above her head. "Are you done with your rolling about? If you are, come down for dinner." Ruan Meng Meng stiffened instantly, as though a spell had been cast on her. After a long while, she finally recovered enough to turn her head and look at the source of the voice with relative composure. Li Junyu had taken off his suit, so now he was wearing a white shirt and black slacks. Looking lazy yet elegant, he stood by her bed, looking at her coldly. He looked like a handsome and graceful leopard, but Ruan Meng Meng knew that this was just an illusion. Although this man stood casually and looked casual, the aura he was emanating was tinged with an inexplicable sense of danger. Just like a leopard, he looked graceful, but he secretly hid a sharpness that could kill his prey in an instant. Faced with a man like him, Ruan Meng Meng only admired his looks from a distance. If she tried to approach a man like this, she was afraid he would end up selling her off before she even got to know him better. She sat up and narrowed her almond-shaped eyes with some displeasure. "First, young Master Li, thank you for coming here to call me for dinner. Still, shouldn't you knock before coming into my room? I'm a girl, after all. If I just happened to be changing my clothes, wouldn't you end up seeing my entire body?" Li Junyu's black eyes deepened slightly, and he looked her up and down, making no attempt to hide the contempt in his gaze. His gaze seemed to be saying that he was not interested in her body whatsoever. "I did knock," the man said coolly. "As for you," Li Junyu took a step forth and bent down, his ink-dot-like pupils reflecting Ruan Meng Meng's fair and smooth face. "I don't care. I told you before, I'm in charge of you from now on. Father entrusted you to me, so you'd best not cause me any trouble. I won't ask what happened to you in the Ruan family, but now that you've joined the Li family, I won't allow you to try any stunts like that again." The man's thin lips slowly drawled out that lazy and mesmerizing warning, one word at a time. His features, magnified before her eyes, were still incomparably handsome and flawless. His voice was still the same sexy tone that could impregnate her ears with a single sentence. However, Juan Mengmeng could not feel the slightest bit excited right now. When he stared at her with his cool black eyes like Arctic abyssal pools, all she could feel was a terrifying tremor, as though she had sunk into the bottomless ocean. Anyone else would probably be shaking like a newborn chick by now. Nevertheless, she was Ruan Mengmeng, the daughter of the Ruan family who was known to never back down from a hard place. She may be moved by reason, but never by force. Although her heart was already shaking like a leaf, she still puffed up her cheeks and stared back at him. What kind of evil stunt did I pull at the Ruan family? Ruan Mengmeng frowned deeply. Just then, she thought that Ruan Junyu found out about how she had pushed Qin Fong down the stairs. She bit her bottom lip and held back her unhappiness. You don't know anything at all. I didn't push my stepmother down the stairs. I was the victim there. I'm talking about the marks on your body. There was a faint edge of impatience in the man's cold voice. The maids who had helped Ruan Mengmeng change had long since reported her condition to him. He really did not want to have to keep an eye on a problematic student like her, who constantly repeated her schooling years. The marks. Ruan Mengmeng froze on the spot. A long few seconds later, she finally screamed. Ah, you big pervert. Get the heck out. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The four young masters of the Li family. Mengmeng, it's great that you get along with Junyu. Your uncle was worried that Junyu would scare you, since he always looks so stern. But when I heard how noisy you two had been upstairs, I finally feel relieved. Ruan Mengmeng sat at the dinner table, pretending not to see Li Junyu sitting opposite her. However, she had barely picked up her cup when Li Yaoyang's words made her choke on her saliva. Did he say she was getting along with that ice block of a man who had nothing but good looks and an evil heart? Was Uncle Li misunderstanding something? Could he not tell that far from getting along, they were in fact on really bad terms? Unfortunately, she had no choice but to swallow all of those words. Li Yaoyang was just too kind to her, so she could not bear to nitpick about their arrangements while she stayed at their home. After exchanging a few words with Ruan Mengmeng, Li Yaoyang frowned and asked the butler, where are Junting, Junche, and Juanshi? Haven't the three of them come downstairs yet? When she heard the name, Junting, Ruan Mengmeng's ears immediately perked up. She was a little nervous, and her heart was pounding. Would second young Master Li remember what happened last night when he saw her? Li Junyu, who was sitting opposite her, glanced at the girl's body as it suddenly stiffened straight as a board. His deep and cold black eyes darkened even further. I've already sent servants to call them down. They should be here soon. The middle-aged butler was sweating bullets now. It was nearly impossible to get all four of the young masters to have a proper meal with the master. Aside from the strict and disciplined first young master, the other three young masters were each more difficult than the other. Li Yaoyang's black brows creased, and sparks of anger lit up in his pitch black eyes. However, his gaze swept across Ruan Mengmeng, who was still sitting at the dining table, and he forced down the fury that was threatening to overflow. Inwardly, he sighed. It looked like he had to teach those stupid boys a lesson some other day. Turning around, he smiled at Ruan Mengmeng as he explained, Junting, Junche, and Juanshi are my other three sons. Of the three of them, the oldest is 20 and the youngest 8. They're in their rebellious stage right now, so they just love disobeying me. Thanks to Li Yaoyang's ensuing introduction, Ruan Mengmeng finally learned more about the four young masters of the Li family. The oldest son, Li Junyu, was a prodigy, just like her sister. He skipped many years in school as a child, and he was already the executive president at the Lixing Group despite his young age. The second son, Li Junting, was 20 this year. He was currently studying overseas, and he was known for being quite the wild and cocky character. Ruan Mengmeng's best friend Mu Jingxing had gotten to know second young Master Li at the bar. Otherwise, the Mu family's position would never have been enough for him to get his hands on a copy of second young Master Li's itinerary. On the other hand, the third son Li Junche was exactly 16 this year, whereas the youngest son Li Juanshi was only 8. Junyu, Junting, and Junche are all my sons from my deceased wife. Lil Shi is the only child I have with your mother. Li Yaoyang was worried that this would upset Wan Mengmeng, so he kept watching the changes in her expression as he spoke. Your mom's depression became worse after she lost you too, and it only took a turn for the better after she became pregnant with Lil Shi. She spoiled Lil Shi since he was very young, so that child has a rather bad temper now. That theoretically made Lil Shi Wan Mengmeng's younger brother by blood. When he thought of his youngest son, who was as unreasonable as a lord, Li Yaoyang could not help but frown. In the Li family, that brat was not afraid of anyone except Li Junyu. If he met his sister and they got along, that would be fine. If they did not get along, though, and if they ended up quarreling, he would not know how to explain the situation with Qin Qingji. Li Yaoyang was about to tell his oldest son to keep an eye on Lil Shi. Just then, there were footsteps coming from the dining room door. Immediately after that, 2 figures appeared at the entrance to the dining hall. One was a slender pretty boy, and he held the hand of a bratty little kid whose face screamed reluctance as they entered the room. Ross Se Ruan Mian. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She sure looked tasty, Che, Lil Shi. Come here. When Wan Mengmeng was around, Li Yaoyang's expression was not as stern as usual, and his tone when he spoke to his 2 sons was gentler too. This is Mengmeng. From now on, she'll be your sister. Li Yaoyang introduced Wan Mengmeng to his 3rd son and his youngest son. As he spoke, the pretty boy and the little kid with the dark expression both turned their eyes to her. Nice to meet you. Wan Mengmeng nodded at them, but she sked to herself inwardly. She was stunned at how ridiculously good-looking these brothers were. Lu Junche was the pretty type, with feminine and beautiful features, but when those clear bright eyes looked at her through the wisps of hair falling across his forehead, his gaze somehow had a mysterious air of nobility that she could not ignore. He was just like a noble boy in an oil portrait from the Middle Ages, tall, slender, elegant, and beautiful. As for the 8-year-old little boy standing next to him, Li Juanshi, he was currently looking at her with a gaze full of animosity. The boy was emanating a chill from every pore of his body, and his delicate face had arrogance written all over it. When she met those sparkly round almond eyes that looked a little like hers, Wan Mengmeng could clearly feel the hostility hidden within them. Was it just her, or did the boy really hate her? Then again, that made sense. Li Juanshi was about as old as she was when she lost her mother back then, at merely 8 years old. If someone had suddenly told her she had a half-sister from another father back when she was 8, she probably would not be happy either. Since they shared the same blood, Wan Mengmeng was very generous toward Li Juanshi. She made the first move, curving her lips to give the boy a sweet smile, her dimples making her look both adorable and friendly. To her surprise, however, the boy just gave her a mean glare. He even followed it up with a cold harumph, arrogantly turning his head away. Now this was awkward. Li Yaoyang quietly coughed twice, intending to get Li Junyu to tell off his youngest son. However, the previously motionless 3rd son, Li Junche, suddenly made a move. He casually walked to Wan Mengmeng as though there was no one else around. While everyone else looked at him strangely, he stretched out his slender and fair index finger, and poked Wan Mengmeng's soft cheek with it. He poked her again. Li Juanche's were very gentle. His slightly cold fingertip poked the girl's collagen-filled cheek. It was bouncy and springy. What are you doing? Wan Mengmeng suddenly reacted, her body retreating as she held her face. Her sweet little face instantly turned completely red. The pretty boy did not look at her, though. Instead, he turned to Li Junyu. Big bro, she looks so bouncy and soft, like cotton candy. Can I eat her? Li Junyu's cold pupils dilated abruptly, and his gaze was extremely distant as it pushed the blushing Wan Meng Meng. He said coolly, no, you can't. Oh, okay, the pretty boy's clear bright eyes darkened somewhat. He gave Wan Meng Meng another reluctant glance before he sat down next to his oldest brother. Just like that, he sat diagonally opposite Wan Meng Meng. Meanwhile, Wan Meng Meng, who he had compared to cotton candy and asked if she was tasty, had been completely lost the whole time. What the heck was happening here? Why did she suddenly fail to understand what they were talking about? Were they speaking Mandarin? Why did they ask if she was tasty? Please ignore them, Meng Meng. His two sons were giving Li Yaoyang a headache. Those punks did not listen to anyone but their oldest brother. Besides, they were all in their rebellious stage, so every single one of them was extremely temperamental. Che has always liked sweet things, ever since he was a child. He probably just thinks you're too cute. Ruan Meng Meng. She was too cute, so he wondered if she was edible. Ruan Meng Meng was feeling somewhat confused. Li Yaoyang wanted to add something else when the middle-aged butler suddenly walked up to him in a hurry. Master, I just found this note the second young master left in his room. He says he's already on the plane back to M country. Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suspected by Li Junyu Fu. When she heard that Li Junting had already left in advance, Wan Meng Meng could not help a sigh of relief. She was actually really nervous. She did not let it show on her face, but her nerves had actually been very taut the entire time. After all, last night was her first time too. If she had to face the man who had just taken her body. Wan Meng Meng was not completely sure she could keep herself from revealing any emotion. Now that the burden had been lifted off her heart, her shoulders relaxed as well. Wan Meng Meng's actions were not very conspicuous, but Li Junyu was sitting right opposite her, so he did not miss the changes in her expression and body language. When he saw how Wan Meng Meng clearly heaved a sigh of relief, an unreadable light flashed past the man's deep and cold eyes. The rest of the meal passed by relatively peacefully. Everything was quite normal, except for when the pretty boy stole the little boy's desserts and withstood the little boy's sarcastic retort in return. The only problem was that Li Yaoyang was the only one at the entire table full of people that could face her with a smile. As for the other three, one was cold and distant, one was arrogant and antagonistic, and the last one stared at her as though she was some kind of food. Wan Meng Meng showed nothing on the surface, but inwardly she had a lot to say about this situation. The longer she stayed, the more she regretted her decision to stay. After she finally finished that meal, she returned to her room and was surprised to find both the clothes she wore and the bag she always carried with her waiting for her on the table. Wan Meng Meng walked to her table and took her phone out of the bag. The phone screen was cracked, and the device itself was dead. It had probably been damaged when she fell down the stairs. Could it even be turned on again? What if her father realized later that he had misunderstood her? What if he tried to call her, but could not reach her? Wan Meng Meng may have resented Ruan Zhaotian for his lack of trust in her earlier, but she still harbored some hopes for her father. She pressed the power button and after a brief pause, the screen lit up again. The phone was not damaged beyond repair after all. As soon as the device booted up, she received a flurry of several dozen messages at once. Wan Meng Meng's eyes lit up, and she quickly ran through the texts. However, even when she reached the end, aside from her best friend Mu Jingxing's calls, she had not received a single call from Ruan Zhaotian or the Ruan family. Her pretty bright almond eyes dimmed despite herself. So her dad really did not care about her anymore, huh? Wan Meng Meng told herself not to overthink things for now. After all, her dad was surrounded by people who hated her, so maybe he just never found the opportunity to call her. L.RG. Oh yeah, the little tyke was just born, and he was premature, too. Maybe her dad was just too busy to call her. With that in mind, Ruan Mengmeng felt slightly better, and she gave Mu Jingxing a call. Mengmeng, what took you so long? Why didn't you call me back sooner? As soon as the call went through, Mu Jingxing's concerned voice penetrated the speakers. I heard that you and your family's washing maid fell down the stairs together. Is that true? Are you hurt anywhere? Everyone's saying you were the one who pushed her down now. Ruan Mengmeng, that's one heavy accusation you're facing. By washing maid, Mu Jingxing meant Qin Fang. It was because Qin Fang used to be Ruan Mengmeng's grandmother's nanny, and she cared for her grandmother so carefully that she would even kneel on the ground to wash her grandmother's feet. That was why Mu Jingxing was always calling Qin Fang the washing maid, to make fun of her. Besides, Mu Jingxing truly was her gay best friend, because the first thing he did as soon as the call went through was to ask about her condition. Not for a second did he suspect that Ruan Mengmeng had actually pushed Qin Fang down. They were friends, so no explanations were needed. True friends would understand exactly what kind of a person you were. Ruan Mengmeng did not say anything, but her heart twisted a little. She rearranged her thoughts and told him the truth. She was the one who wanted to push me down, but she couldn't make me budge. Instead, she lost her balance and misstepped. She was pregnant, so I wanted to reach out and lend her a hand, but instead, she pulled me down with her. After that, my grandmother and the others all met us at the hospital. And Ruan Jiaojiao said that she saw me stretching out my hand. What about your dad? Isn't he quite fond of you? Did he really believe that? Ruan Mengmeng's breath caught, and she said quietly, yeah. She had left the hospital with blood flowing from her head, and even after so much time had passed, her father had yet to give her a single call. Mu Jingxing seemed very angry, cursing on the other end. I was wondering how he still had the time to post on Moments. I thought that meant you were fine, but it turns out he really stopped caring about you. Well, *CK. My mom was right, once you get a stepmother, you practically get a stepdad too. Uncle Ruan went too far this time, he wasn't so stupid before. Moments. What did he post on Moments? Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Goal. Earn money. It's about him finally having a son at this age. Didn't you check your phone? Your dad just posted a picture of his little monkey on his Moments, as if he can't wait to let the whole world know. My dad and his friends have already congratulated him. To be honest, I think that the little monkey is not good looking at all. However, my mom said that the child is considered average looking and seems healthy, Mu Jingxing said loathly. Hearing that the child was fine, Ruan Mengmeng let out a sigh of relief. Although the newborn baby was Qin Fang's son, he was innocent. The enmity between adults had nothing to do with the kids. However, Ruan Mengmeng felt something strange. Was the baby born prematurely? The baby should have suffered some injuries as Qin Fang fell down the stairs. How is it possible that the baby is fine? It did not cross Mu Jingxing's mind that Ruan Mengmeng was hoping that something bad had happened to the baby. Mu Jingxing knew his best friend's personality very well, so he thought through it seriously and said, according to the picture posted by your dad, the child was placed inside an incubator, so I'm thinking that it might be due to premature delivery. However, my mom saw the baby and she said he looks healthy. Mu Jingxing's mother was the director of a private hospital, so what she said should be true. I see, Ruan Mengmeng replied. That child seems to be blessed. Back then, her father married her mother because of her beauty, but they did not have a son for more than 10 years. Her grandmother had been unhappy about it ever since, thus she secretly introduced Qin Fang to her father. However, when she was finally pregnant, it still ended up being a baby girl. For this, her grandmother spared no scoldings for her mother. Since Qin Fang had been taking care of her grandmother for a long time, her grandmother could not bear to scold Qin Fang. However, who would have known that her mother would later marry Li Yaoyang and become pregnant with a son the following year? In contrast, it took Qin Fong 11 years to be pregnant with a son after marrying her father. All of this was probably fated. The corners of Ruan Mengmeng's lips curled up slightly into a mocking smile. Meanwhile, Mu Jingxing, who didn't hear her voice for some time, asked anxiously on the other side of the phone, "Meng Meng, where are you now? Why don't you come and stay at my house for the time being?" "I'm currently at my friend's house, afraid that Mu Jingxing might be worried about her," Ruan Mengmeng told a lie. "Besides, your house is just next door, I can't stay there. I don't want to run into them for the time being." Anyway, she studied at City No. 1 High School, whereas Mu Jingxing and Wan Jiaojiao studied at Wisdom Academy. He would not know who her classmates were. "Fine. Take care of yourself and call me if anything happens. Oh, by the way, I'll send you some money via WeChat later. You'll need it." "No need, I have money," Mu Jingxing had helped her way too much. "Just take it, will ya? You don't need to feel embarrassed or anything. I'm sure you know that I have quite some pocket money." His status as a nouveau riche was so strong that she could feel it across the screen. Even so, Ruan Mengmeng was touched by his words. She knew that Mu Jingxing was helping her out intentionally, as he knew that she had spent most of her money to hire a detective to further investigate her sister's accident. Ruan Mengmeng could not help but knit her brows at the thought of money. "It seems that I do need some money." She suspected that there was something fishy behind her sister's death as well as the Ruan family itself, but it was useless to tell her family about it. It was even more absurd to tell her mother about it. She was all alone in this. This was also the reason why she could not pay more during her confrontation with Qin Fong previously. Almost all of the money she made from playing games had been spent in the investigation. Even if the nouveau riche, Mu Jingxing, did not mind, she was still embarrassed to ask for money from a high school student who was still living off his parents. BDNV. Although Mu Jingxing was also in his senior year this year, he was actually 1 year younger than Ruan Mengmeng. He had just passed his 18th birthday. "Mu Jingxing, I'll think of a way to settle my financial problems. I know that you're rich, but you should save it up and buy me lunch some other day." As soon as Ruan Mengmeng finished her sentence, Mu Jingxing immediately understood something and almost jumped in excitement. "Lord Mo, does this mean that you're going back to gaming?" "Oh yeah. Ever since Ruan Shishir forbade Ruan Mengmeng from playing games, his rank had fallen from diamond to gold." As her best friend, it was obvious that Mu Jingxing knew all the ways in which Ruan Mengmeng made money. He was so damn thrilled right now.